The vastness of space stretched endlessly, silent and cold, but inside the dreadnought Varkon, there was nothing but noise and arrogance. The massive alien warship floated in orbit around a dying red sun, its metallic hull gleaming like the blade of a predator. Inside, a grand council chamber buzzed with activity. Dozens of alien species filled the tiered seats, their strange bodies twisting and shifting, their voices echoing like a storm. They were united by a single purpose, the destruction of Earth. At the center of the hall, a giant holographic display showed scenes of human soldiers fighting desperate battles across distant colonies. Small outposts burned, human soldiers bled, and alien banners rose high. The aliens laughed. Their laughter was not like human laughter, it was cruel and sharp, a sound like broken glass. One insectoid leader hissed, "Look at them. Fragile. Slow. They fight with sticks and stones while we command the stars." Another, a creature with 3 eye stalks, added mockingly, "They are nothing but primitive animals. They still rely on muscle and bullets. What can they do against plasma and gravity cannons?" The chamber roared with approval. To these alien empires, humans were a joke, a species barely evolved beyond the mud of their homeworld. In their minds, Earth would fall easily, like so many other worlds had before it. At the head of the council stood General Krava, a towering reptilian warlord whose scaled armor shimmered with embedded jewels taken from conquered planets. His eyes were narrow slits of burning orange, filled with ambition. He raised his clawed hands, and the hall fell silent. "Enough," he growled, his voice deep and commanding. "The humans have resisted longer than they should have. It is time we crush them completely." He gestured to the hologram. Images shifted to show Earth itself, a blue and green marble floating in the black void. 3 solar cycles from now, Krava continued, we will launch our full invasion. We will burn their cities. We will enslave their species. And when the last human screams, the galaxy will know the strength of the Varkon dominion. The crowd erupted in cheers, claws slamming against metal seats, mandibles clicking in excitement. The decision was made. The invasion was coming. But among the council sat a quiet figure, cloaked and hooded, his face hidden in shadow. When the cheers died down, his voice cut through the chamber, low, calm, and unsettling. "You are all fools." The aliens turned, surprised. General Krava narrowed his eyes. "Speak, Advisor Zelth," he hissed. "But choose your words carefully." The cloaked alien rose slowly, his movements smooth and deliberate. "You laugh at the humans because you see only their soldiers," he said, his voice echoing strangely. "You see their rifles, their tanks, their primitive tactics. But there is something you do not see. Something that fights beside them." A ripple of confusion spread through the chamber. One insectoid commander buzzed irritably. "What nonsense is this? They are weak. They fight like children." Advisor Zeltha's hidden face turned toward him. "And yet, you have lost battles you should have easily won. Have you not wondered why?" The council grew uneasy. Even Krava shifted slightly, though his expression remained cold. "You speak in riddles," Krava snarled. "What are you suggesting?" Zeltha's hands curled into his sleeves. "There are whispers," he said slowly. "Whispers of beasts that fight alongside the humans. Creatures bred for war. Creatures that do not fear death, that hunt in the shadows." The room went silent for a moment, the words hanging heavy in the air. Then, suddenly, an alien burst out laughing, a strange, bubbling sound. Another joined in. And another. Until the entire hall was shaking with laughter once again. "Beasts?" one sneered. "Are we to fear animals now? Perhaps the humans will send their pets to bite our ankles," another mocked. Even General Krava allowed himself a deep, rumbling chuckle. "Advisor," he said with a grin that showed rows of sharp teeth. "I respect your caution, but this is nonsense. Whatever creatures they have, they will die alongside their masters." Zelth did not laugh. He simply sat back down, his head lowering beneath his hood. "We shall see," he whispered. "But remember this moment when your laughter turns to screams." Krava dismissed him with a wave of his claw. "Prepare the fleets," he commanded. "In 3 solar cycles, Earth will kneel." The council erupted into cheers once more. The sound of drums and war chants filled the chamber as the aliens celebrated their coming victory. They did not know, they could not know, the mistake they had just made. Far away, on a distant and hidden human military base, there was no laughter. There was only silence, and the sound of something breathing. Deep underground, in a pitch-black chamber, steel cages lined the walls. Each cage was reinforced with heavy chains and thick bars that looked as though they had been forged to contain monsters. The air was heavy, filled with the musky scent of fur and blood. Somewhere in the darkness, a low growl rumbled, so deep it made the metal walls vibrate. A pair of glowing yellow eyes opened slowly, cutting through the shadows like twin suns. Then, another pair. And another. All around the chamber, eyes began to appear, one by one, until it seemed the darkness itself was alive and watching. A human voice, calm and commanding, broke the silence. "They're ready." Footsteps echoed as a figure approached the cages. A soldier in black armor, his face hidden by a visor, checked the restraints carefully. The beasts inside shifted restlessly, their claws scraping against the floor. "Soon," the soldier whispered, almost like a promise. "The enemy is coming. And when they arrive, you hunt." The growls grew louder, a terrifying chorus that seemed almost eager. The soldiers stepped back as the shadows shifted violently, the beasts straining against their chains. Above ground, alarms blared across the base. Human commanders prepared for war, their voices filled with determination. Back in the council chamber, the aliens continued to laugh, blind to the storm about to fall upon them. In the final moment, the scene returned to the dark chamber. The camera moved slowly toward one set of glowing eyes. The beast within opened its mouth wide, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. It let out a roar so powerful that the lights flickered and dust rained from the ceiling. A single word appeared on the screen. "The war dogs are awake." The alien fleet moved like a dark storm across the stars, hundreds of warships cutting through the void as they advanced toward their first target, a small human colony on the dusty world of Ares 9. The planet's surface was barren and red, covered in endless dunes of sand. From orbit, it looked completely defenseless, almost inviting destruction. Inside one of the alien troop carriers, young warrior Tarvek stood among his squad, his clawed hands gripping his plasma rifle tightly. This was to be his first real battle, and he had been raised his entire life to believe humans were weak, unworthy opponents. He remembered the laughter of the council, the way his commanders spoke of humans as nothing more than prey. "This will be a glorious slaughter," one of the older soldiers hissed beside him. "We will take their cities before nightfall. Perhaps I will keep a human as a pet." Tarvek gave a nervous laugh, though deep inside, a small voice whispered doubt. Advisor Zeltha's strange warning at the council meeting had unsettled him. Beasts fighting beside humans? It sounded like nonsense, yet the memory of the advisor's calm, ominous tone clung to his mind. Moments later, the troop carrier shook violently as it entered the planet's thin atmosphere. Alarms blared, and the pilot's voice came through the intercom. "Prepare for landing. Victory awaits." The doors opened with a hiss of steam, and the soldiers poured out onto the sandy battlefield. The human settlement ahead was small, surrounded by makeshift walls and defensive towers. Smoke already rose from several burning buildings. The first wave of aliens had clearly overwhelmed the defenders. Tarvek's squad advanced through the chaos, easily cutting down scattered groups of human soldiers. The humans fought bravely, but their weapons were crude compared to alien plasma rifles. The laughter of Tarvek's comrades echoed through the air as the last resistance was crushed. It was too easy. Tarvek expected to feel triumphant, but instead, he felt uneasy. The humans seemed almost calm, even as they retreated. They weren't screaming in terror like other conquered species. Instead, they smiled, whispering something he couldn't quite hear. Tarvek stepped over the body of a fallen soldier, and noticed a large reinforced cage near the edge of the settlement. The cage was unlike anything he'd seen before, made of dense alloy, with deep claw marks etched into its surface. Heavy chains rattled inside. A strange smell of blood and musk filled the air around it. Curious, Tarvek approached, his claws clicking nervously against his rifle. "What is this thing?" he muttered, circling the cage. "Some kind of human war machine?" The older soldier beside him sneered. "Perhaps they keep their livestock in it. Humans are animals, after all." Tarvek peered through a small opening, trying to see inside the darkness. For a moment, he saw nothing. Then, something moved. A deep, guttural growl rose from the shadows, so powerful it vibrated through Tarvek's chest. Two glowing yellow eyes snapped open, staring directly at him. The growl became a snarl, loud and primal, like the roar of an ancient predator. Tarvek stumbled backward, his tail lashing in fear. "By the stars! What is in there?" Before the older soldier could respond, a human voice shouted from behind the settlement walls. "Release the dogs." The word sent a chill down Tarvek's spine. He didn't understand the human language, but the tone was unmistakable. It was a command. And whatever that command was, the humans wanted this to happen. With a violent crash, the reinforced cage door snapped open, the metal twisting like paper. Chains whipped through the air, snapping one by one with terrifying speed. Tarvek barely had time to raise his rifle before a massive shadow exploded out of the cage. The creature was fast, impossibly fast. All Tarvek saw were flashes of black fur, glinting teeth, and blazing yellow eyes before the alien soldier beside him was torn apart. Blood sprayed across Tarvek's face as a scream was abruptly cut off. The creature moved again, vanishing into the smoke. Chaos erupted across the battlefield. Alien warriors screamed as more cages opened, releasing multiple beasts into the fight. The humans didn't flee, they advanced alongside the creatures, their expressions cold and controlled. It was clear now who was really in command. Tarvek scrambled backward, his claws digging into the sand as he fired wildly into the smoke. He caught brief glimpses of the monsters as they tore through his squad. They were nothing like animals. They were larger than any predator Tarvek had ever seen, with powerful muscles, armored hides, and rows of jagged teeth built for ripping flesh. Their movements were precise, coordinated, almost intelligent. These weren't wild beasts. They were weapons. A fellow alien soldier screamed as one of the creatures pounced, knocking him to the ground and tearing out his throat in a single bite. Another tried to flee, only to be dragged back into the darkness, his shrieks echoing through the desert night. Tarvek's mind raced. This couldn't be real. Humans didn't have technology like this. They were supposed to be weak, predictable, easy prey. But these creatures, these war dogs, as the humans called them, they were something far worse than anything Tarvek had imagined. He turned and ran, stumbling through the sand, desperate to reach the safety of his dropship. Behind him, the sounds of slaughter grew louder, the guttural growls of the war dogs mixing with the terrified screams of alien warriors. As Tarvek reached the top of a dune, he dared to glance back. Through the smoke and fire, he saw a single human soldier standing calmly amid the chaos. Beside him stood one of the war dogs, its fur slick with blood, its teeth bared in a silent snarl. The human reached down, resting a hand on the creature's head as if it were nothing more than a loyal companion. Then, slowly, the human pointed directly at Tarvek. The war dog's head snapped toward him, and its glowing eyes locked onto his. Tarvek's blood ran cold. With a deafening roar, the creature launched itself forward. Tarvek barely had time to scream before the world became a blur of teeth, claws, and unstoppable fury. And far above, watching from the safety of orbit, General Krava received the first fragmented reports of the battle. Static-filled transmissions spoke of monsters, of shadows moving too fast to track, of entire squads vanishing without a trace. Krava's claws tightened around the armrest of his command chair. "What nonsense is this?" he snarled. "The humans have no such weapons." But deep inside, a small seed of doubt began to grow. The laughter of the council echoed faintly in his memory. And for the first time, Krava wondered if they had made a terrible mistake. The desert battlefield of Ares, 9 had fallen silent by dawn. Only the smoke of burning dropships and the stench of blood remained. Tarvex stumbled through the wreckage, his chest heaving, his armor torn and splattered with the remains of his squad. His claws trembled as he dragged himself toward the emergency beacon he had dropped the night before. He had survived, somehow, but at a terrible cost. Out of the 50 warriors who had landed with him, only he remained. As he collapsed against a half-buried supply crate, his visor flickered to life, connecting him to the command fleet in orbit. A distorted voice barked through the static. "Report, ground unit. The colony should be secured by now. What is the status?" Tarvek's throat was dry, his voice barely a whisper. They weren't alone. There was a pause, followed by a mocking laugh from the other end. "Humans. They are nothing. Speak clearly, warrior." Tarvek's voice rose in desperation, his words tumbling out in a rush. "It wasn't the humans. There were things in the shadows. Monsters. They moved faster than the eye could follow. They tore through our ranks like nothing. You have to." A loud snarl cut him off. Tarvek's eyes widened, his body freezing in terror. From behind a destroyed wall, a low growl echoed across the ruins. The sound was familiar, far too familiar. No, it can't be. Tarvek shut off the transmission and scrambled to his feet. He ran as fast as he could, leaping over debris, his heart pounding. Behind him, claws scraped against metal and sand, growing louder, closer. As he crested a hill, he saw his salvation, a rescue pod descending from the sky, its landing thrusters kicking up clouds of dust. Tarvek waved frantically. "Open the hatch. Open it now." The hatch hissed open, and 2 soldiers reached out to pull him inside. Before they could close it, a dark shape slammed into one of the rescuers, dragging him screaming into the sand. The other soldier fired wildly into the darkness, his shots lighting up brief glimpses of glowing yellow eyes. The hatch sealed just as the beast lunged again, slamming into the door with terrifying force. The entire pod rattled. Inside, Tarvek curled into a corner, shaking violently. The remaining soldier stared at him, wide-eyed. What was that thing? Tarvek could only whisper one word, his voice breaking. "Hunters." Hours later, aboard the command ship, General Krava stormed into the strategy room, his tail lashing furiously. The reports from Ares, 9 were chaotic, fragmented, and deeply troubling. Survivors described blurs of motion, weapons that didn't show up on scanners, and alien warriors simply vanishing mid-battle. Some reports didn't even sound real, like the ramblings of soldiers driven mad by fear. Krava slammed his claws onto the holotable. "I will not tolerate cowardice or superstition. Humans do not have this kind of technology. There must be another explanation." An intelligence officer swallowed nervously and adjusted the hologram to replay the final moments captured by a dropship camera. The image was shaky and dark, filled with smoke and fire. At first, there was nothing. Then, in the corner of the screen, 2 glowing yellow lights appeared. The lights moved, charged, directly toward the camera with blinding speed. The feed cut to black amid a burst of static and a single, chilling roar. The room fell silent. Even Krava's confidence wavered for a heartbeat. But then he bared his teeth and growled, forcing authority back into his voice. "Some kind of human war beast, nothing more. Primitive creatures can be killed. Deploy heavier weapons next time. Flamethrowers, gas, whatever it takes. We will burn them out." The officers obeyed, though unease lingered in their eyes. In the corner of the room, Advisor Zelth emerged from the shadows. His voice was calm, but his words cut deep. "I warned you. You laughed. Now you pay the price." Krava turned on him, his claws flexing. "You speak of these beasts as if you know them." "I do not know them," Zelth said softly. "But I know the humans. They never fight a war they are not prepared to win. These creatures are not wild. They are controlled. The general snarled. Controlled? By humans? Impossible. They are animals. Zelth tilted his head. Are they? Or are they soldiers? The words hung in the air like a poison. Krava's scales rippled uneasily, but he shoved the thought away. Prepare the next assault, he commanded. We will overwhelm them with numbers. These hunters will fall like everything else. Far below, on Earth, the humans were already preparing for the next move. Deep inside a fortified base, the war dogs were being fed and armed. Their handlers moved among them without fear, giving hand signals and quiet commands. The creatures obeyed instantly, their terrifying strength held in check only by their training and loyalty. In a dimly lit control room, Commander Rylan watched holographic footage of the Ares 9 massacre. The alien forces had been completely annihilated, just as planned. But Rylan's expression remained cold and unreadable. The enemy will adapt, he said to his second-in-command. They always do. Prepare the next pack. When they return, we'll be ready. He turned to the largest war dog, a towering beast with scars across its muzzle. The creature growled softly, almost affectionately, as Rylan placed a hand on its head. Soon, Rylan whispered. The hunt begins. On the alien flagship, Tarvek stood before General Krava once again. He had been dragged from the medbay to give his report directly, though his body still shook from the trauma. His words tumbled out, half panicked, half pleading. General, you don't understand. These things, they think. They hunt us like prey. We never saw them coming. One moment they were shadows, the next, we were dead. Krava leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. Control yourself, warrior. Are you saying these creatures are superior to us? Tarvek swallowed hard. I'm saying, if we don't find a way to stop them, there won't be a war. There will only be a slaughter. For a brief moment, Krava said nothing. Then he turned away, dismissing Tarvek with a flick of his claw. Return to your quarters. You are shaken, nothing more. As Tarvek was led away, Advisor Zeltha's voice whispered in the darkness. He speaks the truth. And you ignore it. When the hunters come for you, Krava, I will not save you. That night, aboard the alien fleet, a single war dog's howl echoed across the void. It came from nowhere, carried through intercepted transmissions the aliens could not trace. It was a promise, a warning. And as Krava stared out at the stars, for the first time in his life, he felt fear. The alien fleet returned to Ares, 2 cycles later, this time with overwhelming force. General Krava stood on the command deck of his flagship, his orange eyes blazing with fury as he looked over the holographic battle map. Hundreds of warships hovered above the planet, their shadows blotting out the sun. Alien troops filled drop pods, armed with heavy flamethrowers, plasma cannons, and chemical weapons designed to kill anything that breathed. No more mistakes, Krava snarled, his voice echoing through the chamber. These things are nothing but animals. This time, they will burn. The alien warriors roared in agreement, though there was a nervous edge to their voices. Rumors of the first battle had spread throughout the fleet. Tales of shadows moving faster than the eye could see, of entire squads disappearing into the darkness with nothing but screams left behind. Many didn't truly believe these stories, but fear gnawed at them all the same. Krava turned to Tarvek, who stood in chains beside 2 guards. You will witness our victory, Krava said coldly. Perhaps then you will stop spreading your tales of phantoms and beasts. Tarvek's throat tightened, his memories of that night still vivid, the yellow eyes, the snarls, the tearing of flesh. You don't understand, he rasped. It's not numbers that matter. It's them. They're not animals. They hunt together. They think. Krava sneered and gestured for him to be taken away. Then let them think. It will not save them. The drop pods slammed into the surface of Ares, 9 like meteors, spraying sand and ash into the air. Alien warriors poured out, forming tight formations as they advanced. Flamethrower units moved at the front, burning every shadow, every crevice where the creatures might hide. Drones hovered overhead, scanning constantly for movement. For a while, there was nothing. No humans. No monsters. Only silence and the hiss of burning sand. One soldier muttered nervously. Maybe they ran away. A deep, guttural howl shattered the stillness. It was distant at first, carried on the wind, but another joined it, and another. Soon, the air was filled with dozens of overlapping howls, a chorus of death that made even the bravest alien warriors tremble. Tarvek, restrained aboard a hovering troopship, clenched his eyes shut. "Too late," he whispered. "They're already here." The attack came without warning. A blur of motion streaked through the smoke, striking a flamethrower unit. Before the aliens could react, the creature tore two soldiers apart and vanished into the haze, leaving only blood and screams. Panic spread through the ranks as the war dogs emerged from every direction, moving with terrifying coordination. One beast leapt onto a heavy walker tank, its claws piercing the metal plating as if it were paper. With a powerful bite, it ripped into the cockpit, dragging the pilot out and snapping him in half before leaping away again. The remaining tanks opened fire wildly, hitting more of their own troops than the war dogs. Overhead, drones tried to track the creatures, but their scanners failed. The war dogs moved too fast, using the battlefield's smoke and sandstorms as cover. They weren't just attacking randomly, they were herding the aliens, pushing them into kill zones where human soldiers waited in ambush. From the shadows, human troops emerged with calm precision. Their black armor gleamed under the fires of battle, their faces hidden behind visors. Each soldier moved as if perfectly synchronized with the war dogs, signaling silently with hand gestures. The beasts responded instantly, obeying their handlers like perfectly trained soldiers. Tarvek watched the carnage unfold on a viewing screen aboard the troopship. His captors stared in silent horror as the carefully prepared army fell apart within minutes. He whispered in awe and terror. They fight together. The humans are the brains, and those things, they are the claws and teeth." On the battlefield, a human commander raised his hand and whistled sharply. The war dogs immediately broke off their attacks, retreating into the smoke. Confused, the aliens regrouped, thinking the enemy had finally retreated. Then, a second wave struck. Hundreds of war dogs surged forward like living missiles, their snarls blending into a single horrifying roar. Alien ranks shattered under the assault. Entire squads disappeared into the darkness without firing a shot. General Krava slammed his fists against the holotable, his tail lashing violently. "Hold the line. Regroup. Form a defensive perimeter." But it was useless. The enemy wasn't giving them time to regroup. Every move they made was anticipated, countered. The war dogs weren't wild predators, they were strategists, guided by human commanders who understood alien weaknesses better than the aliens themselves. One screen showed a particularly massive war dog charging straight toward the alien artillery line. The creature's jaws clamped down on a plasma cannon, ripping it free from its mount before turning it against its former masters. Even Krava's cold blood ran colder at the sight. His communications officer turned, trembling. "General, we can't stop them. They're everywhere." For a moment, Krava said nothing. His arrogance faltered, replaced by the creeping edge of fear. "What are these things?" A voice spoke behind him, calm and dark, Advisor Zelf. "The humans call them war dogs. They are the product of centuries of genetic tampering, trained to hunt and kill alien species." You laughed, Krava. "And now, they hunt you." On the surface, Tarvek's gaze locked on a single scene through the smoke. A human commander knelt beside one of the creatures, whispering something inaudible. The war dog's ears flicked, and it immediately sprinted off in the exact direction Tarvek had seen an alien squad retreating moments earlier. The realization struck him like a blade. These weren't just weapons. They were intelligent, and they trusted the humans completely. This was no accident of evolution. It was designed warfare. Tarvek's voice cracked as he turned to the stunned soldiers around him. "We cannot fight them. You don't understand. They are smarter than we are. By nightfall, the alien army was in ruins. Flames lit the battlefield, casting long, flickering shadows. War dogs prowled among the wreckage, growling softly as humans moved calmly through the carnage, checking for survivors. Every human was unharmed, their perfect coordination making it seem like they had predicted every move of the enemy. In the distance, General Krava's flagship hovered silently, watching the slaughter from orbit. He had not laughed since the first attack. Now, as he stared at the holograms of the battlefield, his scaled hands trembled. For the first time in his life, General Krava knew fear. General Krava's War Council chamber was silent. The surviving commanders stood in a wide circle, their armor scorched and their bodies trembling. None dared to speak. The holographic map in the center of the room showed Ares 9's surface covered in red warning markers, every symbol representing a destroyed unit, a lost battalion, or a dead officer. The alien army, once thought unstoppable, was now in tatters. Krava's tail lashed violently as he stared at the map. His once proud voice was now cold and sharp. 3 full legions. Thousands of soldiers. Dozens of war machines. Gone. His yellow eyes narrowed. By what? By a pack of animals. Advisor Zelf, cloaked in shadow, stepped forward, his calm demeanor contrasting with the chaos around him. Not animals, General. Weapons. The humans have perfected them. You underestimated both the humans and their beasts. His voice dropped to a chilling whisper. They are not merely fighters. They are a system, 2 halves of a single mind. Separate, they are dangerous. Together. He let the words hang in the air. Together, they are extinction. Krava's claws dug into the holotable. I will not accept defeat. Not to these primitive creatures. If it takes the entire Dominion fleet, I will crush them. Zelf tilted his head, studying the general carefully. You are thinking like a warrior, Krava. That is why you keep losing. These humans, they think like predators. They do not fight to win battles. They fight to erase threats. For the first time, a ripple of doubt crossed Krava's face. He turned to the council and growled. Then tell me, advisor, how do we stop them? On the planet's surface, human troops moved through the aftermath of the battle with eerie precision. The war dogs prowled beside them, silent and alert. The battlefield was a graveyard of alien machines and corpses. Craters still smoked, and the air reeked of burned metal and blood. A human commander, his face hidden beneath a visor, knelt beside one of the war dogs. He placed a gloved hand on the beast's head and whispered softly. The creature's ears twitched, and it padded away silently, vanishing into the fog. Nearby, a young human soldier stared at the devastation. Sir, he said quietly, do you think they'll come back? The commander's voice was calm and certain. Oh, they'll come back. They always do. But next time, we'll be ready for them. The soldier frowned. Ready? Sir, we already crushed them. The commander's visor gleamed as he turned to face the soldier. Crushed? No. This was just a message. He pointed to the burning remains of an alien war machine. They thought we were prey. Now they know better. The real war starts next time. High above, aboard a human orbital station, a secret council observed the battle recordings. A massive screen replayed the moment when the war dogs overwhelmed the alien forces, each strike perfectly timed with the humans' ambushes. One council member, an older woman with gray streaks in her hair, folded her arms. They've seen our war dogs now. The element of surprise is gone. A scarred veteran sitting across from her smirked. Good. Let them see. Fear is a weapon too. Another counselor, a scientist with sharp eyes, leaned forward. The war dogs performed flawlessly, but the data is clear. The enemy is adapting. Next time, they'll come with new weapons, new tactics. If they identify the handlers, they'll target them. The veteran's smirk faded. So what do you suggest? The scientist's voice was cold and clinical. We evolve faster. New breeds. Smarter, faster, deadlier. The war dogs are just the beginning. A tense silence followed, broken only by the hum of the station's engines. Back on Krava's flagship, Tarvek sat alone in a reinforced holding cell. The faint sounds of the ship's engines were drowned out by his racing heartbeat. He replayed the battle in his mind over and over, the glowing eyes in the smoke, the way the humans and their beasts moved as one. It was more than war. It was orchestration. A soft hiss announced the cell door opening. Advisor Zelf entered, his cloak trailing behind him. Tarvek flinched, pressing himself against the far wall. Zelf studied him with cold, calculating eyes. You survived where thousands did not. Tell me what you saw. Tarvek's voice trembled. I saw the end of us. They're not fighting for victory. They're fighting to make sure we never come back. Zeltha's expression darkened. Then they are like us. Tarvek shook his head violently. No. You don't understand. They don't fight for power or conquest. They fight for family. Those creatures, the war dogs, they are family to them. For the first time, Zelth seemed unsettled. His mandibles clicked softly in thought. Family is a strength, and a weakness. He turned sharply, his cloak swirling behind him. Prepare the fleet, he ordered. We will strike again. But this time, we will tear apart their bond. Kill the humans, and the beasts will fall. Far below, in a dark training facility deep beneath a human fortress, rows of young war dogs stood perfectly still. Humans in black armor moved among them, whispering commands. The beasts responded instantly, their glowing eyes never blinking. In the shadows, the same commander who had led the ambush watched silently. His voice was low, almost reverent, as he spoke to his second-in-command. They're coming back. They'll bring their full force this time. The second-in-command hesitated. Do you think we can hold them? The commander knelt beside one of the war dogs, placing a hand gently on its head. The creature leaned into the touch like a loyal friend. We don't need to hold them, the commander said softly. We just need to make them run. The war dog growled, a deep, resonant sound that echoed through the chamber. A promise of the bloodshed to come. The alien Dominion fleet tore through the void of space, its warships blotting out the stars. General Krava stood at the center of his command deck, armored from head to claw, his scaled hands gripping the railing so tightly the metal groaned under the pressure. This was no longer an invasion, this was vengeance. The fleet was the largest ever assembled in the history of his species. Dozens of dreadnoughts, hundreds of destroyers, and thousands of troop carriers moved in perfect formation. Swarming alongside them were massive biomechanical war beasts, alien creatures bred for destruction, chained to the Dominion's will. Krava's voice thundered across the deck. This time, we will erase them. Burn their homes, slaughter their soldiers, and scatter the ashes of their pets across the galaxy. The soldiers roared in response, but beneath their cries was fear. Whispers still circulated. Stories of glowing eyes, of beasts that moved faster than the mind could follow, of comrades who vanished into darkness with nothing but a scream. The terror of the war dogs lingered like a curse. Advisor Zelth stood silently beside Krava, his tone as calm and sharp as a blade. We must strike their bond first. Humans and their beasts are one force. Separate them, and their strength will crumble. Krava's tail lashed. And how do you suggest we do that? Zeltha's mandibles twitched in a grim smile. By turning their loyalty into a weapon against them. Deep beneath a fortified human base, preparations were underway. Massive bunkers thrummed with energy as soldiers and war dogs moved in unison, readying for battle. Every human handler shared a unique bond with their war dog, a connection forged through years of training, trust, and shared danger. In the command chamber, the human leader, known only as Commander Hale, stood before a holographic map of the stars. Beside him, his second-in-command, Captain Reyes, adjusted her visor as data streamed across her screen. They're bringing their entire Dominion fleet, Reyes reported, her voice steady but tense. If they land all their troops, we'll be outnumbered 50-1. Hale's expression remained unreadable beneath his dark visor. Numbers don't win wars. Strategy does. He knelt beside a massive war dog named Omen, its golden eyes glowing softly in the dim light. They think they understand us now, he whispered to the beast. Let them think that. We'll teach them fear all over again. Omen growled low, the sound reverberating through the chamber like distant thunder. The Dominion's first strike came suddenly and brutally. A cluster of orbital bombardments rained down from the sky, turning human outposts into molten craters. The ground shook as alien drop pods slammed into the planet, releasing squads of heavily armed troops. But this time, something was different. The alien soldiers carried sonic disruptors, weapons designed to disorient and confuse the war dogs by flooding their senses with unbearable sound. For a brief moment, it worked. In the fog of war, one squad managed to corner a pair of war dogs, their glowing eyes flickering as they stumbled in pain. The aliens advanced, laughing, thinking they had finally found a weakness. A single shot rang out. The entire squad fell silent and dead before they even saw where it came from. From the shadows, Commander Hale stepped forward, his rifle smoking. The war dogs instantly recovered, circling him protectively. Hale's voice was calm, almost mocking. You brought better toys this time, he said, leveling his weapon. But toys won't save you. He whistled sharply. The war dogs vanished into the smoke like ghosts, and seconds later, the screams began. High above the battlefield, Krava watched the feed with growing frustration. The sonic disruptors were failing. The humans and their beasts adapted too quickly, moving with terrifying precision. Even when a war dog was injured, the humans never left them behind. They fought harder, fiercer, as if vengeance itself guided their every move. Why do they fight like this? Krava snarled. Why risk everything for these animals? Advisor Zeltha's voice was cold and measured. Because to them, the war dogs are not animals. They are brothers, sisters, children, family. Destroy that bond, and the humans will finally break. Krava turned sharply toward him. Then do it. Zelth nodded slowly, his mind already working. We will capture one of their creatures alive. Make it suffer. Make the humans hear it suffer. On the battlefield, Captain Reyes received a transmission on her wrist display. Her face paled beneath her visor. Commander, they've taken one of ours. Hale's head snapped toward her. Who? Reyes swallowed hard. It's Rogue. Krava's forces captured him during the last skirmish. They're broadcasting his cries across the comms. Even through the static, the sound was horrific, a war dog's agonized howls echoing through every human channel. Soldiers clenched their fists, rage flashing in their eyes. Hale's voice was like iron. They think they can break us. They don't understand, this isn't just about war anymore. He stood tall, Omen at his side. We're going to bring Rogue home. And when we do, we'll show them what happens when you hurt family. In the Dominion's fortress, Rogue was chained inside a containment field. Krava stood before the wounded war dog, watching as it bared its teeth despite its injuries. Even restrained and weakened, the creature radiated defiance. Stubborn beast, Krava hissed. You will scream for them, and they will come running into our trap. Advisor Zeltha's mandibles clicked with dark amusement. They will come, General. That is their greatest flaw. And when they do, we will unleash the full power of the Dominion. Above them, the sky darkened as the Dominion fleet prepared for the final phase of the invasion. But far below, in the tunnels and shadows, humans and war dogs were already on the move, silent, focused, and burning with fury. The rescue mission had begun. The night sky over the war-torn planet burned red as Dominion warships blotted out the stars. Columns of alien troops marched beneath the massive floating fortresses, their metallic steps shaking the ground. Every soldier knew this was the trap. The humans would come for their captured war dog. And when they did, the Dominion would crush them once and for all. Inside the alien stronghold, Rogue was chained in a containment field. Thick cables pulsed with energy, shocking him whenever he struggled. His golden eyes glared with pure hatred, but his body trembled from exhaustion. Krava stood over him, towering and merciless, his claws clicking against the metal floor. "Pathetic creature," Krava hissed. "You are bait. When your pack comes to save you, they will die, and you will watch." Rogue let out a guttural snarl, straining against the chains. The sound echoed through the stronghold, carried by hidden speakers across the battlefield, a deliberate lure for the humans and their war dogs. Advisor Zelth watched from the shadows, his voice smooth and chilling. "The humans will hear his cries. Their bond will be their undoing." Beneath the surface, in the abandoned tunnels of an old human mining facility, Commander Hale and his strike team prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. Omen prowled silently beside Hale, its golden eyes reflecting the dim red lights of the underground hideout. Around them, other war dogs waited, muscles tense, their breathing synchronized with the steady, calm breaths of their handlers. Captain Reyes approached Hale, her expression grim beneath her visor. "Scouts report heavy patrols around the stronghold. Anti-air turrets. Sonic disruptors everywhere. Krava's ready for us." Hale's voice was cold and steady. "Good. Let him think he's ready. Tonight, we don't just rescue Rogue. We end this war." Reyes frowned. "Sir, even with our war dogs, their numbers are overwhelming." Hale knelt beside Omen, resting a hand on the beast's head. Omen rumbled softly, leaning into his touch like a trusted friend. "They outnumber us," Hale admitted, his voice low. "But they don't outthink us. And they don't understand what family will do to protect its own." The team fell silent, the weight of his words settling over them. Then, one by one, they nodded. The assault began under cover of darkness. Small squads of humans and war dogs moved like shadows through the ruins, eliminating outer patrols with silent precision. A single whistle was all it took for a war dog to strike, its glowing eyes flashing before disappearing back into the fog. Alien sentries began to panic as they realized they couldn't see their attackers. Whispers of ghosts spread through the ranks. By the time they raised the alarm, the humans were already inside the outer defenses. Hale's voice came through the comms, calm and razor-sharp. "Phase 2. Hit them hard. Leave nothing standing." Explosions erupted across the stronghold as sabotage teams destroyed fuel lines and communication towers. Confusion rippled through the Dominion forces. Krava roared in fury as he realized the humans weren't falling into his trap, they were shattering it. "Fools!" Krava bellowed. "Seal the inner gates. Protect the containment chamber." But it was too late. In the heart of the stronghold, Hale and Omen moved like a single entity. Alien guards rushed them, but the war dog leapt forward, its massive jaws clamping down on a soldier's throat. Hale's rifle barked once, taking down another enemy before they could sound the alarm. Rogue's eyes snapped open when he heard Omen's distinctive growl. A flicker of hope shone in his pain-filled gaze. Hale reached the containment field and placed a device on the control panel. Sparks flew, and the shimmering barrier dropped with a hiss. "We've got you, boy," Hale whispered. Rogue staggered to his feet, snarling, his wounds forgotten as adrenaline surged through him. He and Omen touched foreheads briefly, a silent promise of vengeance. Alarms blared throughout the stronghold as Krava stormed toward the containment chamber, his bodyguards struggling to keep up. "Find them," he roared. "Kill every last one of them." Advisor Zelth, calm as ever, spoke from behind him. "You do not understand, General. They came here knowing they could not win through force. This is not a rescue mission. It is extermination." Krava froze, his claws flexing. "Extermination." As if in answer, a massive explosion rocked the stronghold, throwing Krava and his guards to the floor. The lights flickered and died, plunging the fortress into darkness. Then, the howls began. Dozens of war dogs, their eyes glowing like fireflies in the pitch-black corridors, surged through the fortress. Alien soldiers screamed as the beasts struck from every shadow, tearing through the ranks with terrifying precision. Behind them, human soldiers moved silently, picking off survivors with ruthless efficiency. Hale's voice cut through the chaos, transmitted to every human and war dog on the battlefield. "We have Rogue. All units, unleash hell." The war dogs attacked in perfect unison, moving as one unstoppable force. Krava fought desperately, his plasma blade carving through the smoke, but he couldn't tell where the next strike would come from. Every time he turned, another soldier or war dog was already there, striking and vanishing before he could react. Omen and Rogue fought side by side, their snarls blending into a single deafening roar as they ripped through Krava's elite guard. For the first time, fear glimmered in the warlord's eyes. Advisor Zelth retreated silently, his cold mind calculating even as his plans unraveled. "Let Krava die," he murmured to himself. "Better him than me. I will survive and learn." Krava finally faced Hale directly in the ruined containment chamber. The general's armor was scorched, his breathing ragged, but his fury still burned bright. "You think you've won, human?" Krava spat. "We will come again, and again, until your kind is dust." Hale raised his rifle, Omen and Rogue flanking him like avenging spirits. His voice was quiet, deadly certain. "You'll never come again." A single shot echoed through the chamber. Krava's body collapsed, lifeless, onto the floor. As dawn broke, the humans and war dogs emerged from the smoking ruins. The Dominion fleet, now leaderless and in disarray, began to retreat into the void. Human soldiers cheered, but Hale stood silently, watching the sky. Reyes approached, her voice soft. "It's over, sir. We won." Hale shook his head. "No. This was just one battle. They'll be back, smarter, angrier. And when they come, we'll be ready." Beside him, Omen and Rogue stood tall, their glowing eyes scanning the horizon. The war dogs had fought like warriors. But next time, they would fight like legends. The battlefield was silent, except for the distant hum of retreating Dominion ships disappearing into the upper atmosphere. Smoke curled from the shattered ruins of the alien stronghold, rising into the dawn sky like a signal of victory and warning. War dogs prowled the wreckage, their golden eyes glowing faintly as they sniffed for survivors. Every so often, one would growl, and a human handler would silently finish off a wounded alien. Commander Hale stood at the highest point of the ruined fortress, Omen and Rogue at his side. Their fur was stained with ash and blood, their powerful bodies scarred but unbroken. Around them, human soldiers worked quickly, gathering supplies, tending to the wounded, and preparing for extraction. Captain Reyes approached, removing her visor. Her face was streaked with soot, but her expression was one of grim pride. "Krava is dead. Their fleet is in chaos. We did it." Hale didn't turn. His gaze was locked on the horizon, where the first rays of sunlight cut through the smoke. "No, Captain," he said quietly. "We bought time. Nothing more." Reyes frowned. "Sir, they've suffered a massive defeat. It will take them cycles to rebuild." Hale finally looked at her, his voice cold and certain. "The Dominion isn't a single mind. When one head is cut off, two more grow in its place. Krava was a warlord, but Zelth, he's different. Smarter. He'll be planning his revenge even now." At the mention of Zeltha's name, Rogue let out a low, guttural growl, his body tensing as if he understood the threat. Omen's ears flicked, his golden eyes narrowing. In the void of space, far from the ruined planet, a cloaked Dominion ship drifted silently through the shadows. Inside, Advisor Zelth observed battle recordings projected on a holographic display. The footage showed the humans and war dogs moving with perfect coordination, their attacks surgical, their strikes precise. Zeltha's mandibles clicked softly, a mix of admiration and hatred. "Impressive," he murmured. "The humans are dangerous not because of their beasts, but because of their bond. They fight not for power, but for each other." A subordinate officer trembled nearby. "Should we regroup with the fleet, Advisor?" Zelth turned his cold, glowing eyes toward the officer. "No. Let them think they have won. Victory makes even predators complacent. His voice grew sharper, more venomous. We will study them. We will learn how to tear their bond apart piece by piece. And when we strike again, we will not simply defeat them. We will make them suffer. Back on the planet, human forces began their withdrawal. Dropships descended through the smoke, their engines thundering as squads of soldiers and war dogs boarded in disciplined waves. The war dogs were treated like heroes, each one checked and tended to by handlers with quiet reverence. To the humans, these creatures were not just weapons, they were family. As Rogue was loaded onto a transport, he paused and looked back at the battlefield. His golden eyes burned with fury, as if he understood that this war wasn't over. Hale approached and placed a hand on the war dog's massive head. "You fought well, old friend," Hale said softly. "But this was only the beginning." Rogue leaned into the touch, then let out a sharp bark, a sound of determination rather than relief. Later, aboard the command ship orbiting the planet, a council of high-ranking human leaders met in a secure chamber. Holoscreens displayed data from the battle, including analysis of Dominion weapons and tactics. The counselors spoke in hushed, urgent tones. One gray-haired strategist tapped the screen showing Dominion troop formations. "Krava's defeat has given us breathing room, but the Dominion will adapt. They always do." A scientist leaned forward, her expression grim. "We need to evolve faster." The war dogs performed beyond expectations, but Zelth will find ways to counter them. "I propose accelerated breeding and genetic enhancements. Create a new generation of war dogs that can outmatch anything the Dominion brings." Another counselor hesitated. "That would mean altering their minds as well as their bodies. Are we sure we want to risk that?" Commander Hale's voice cut through the room, calm but unyielding. "Do it. We don't have a choice. The Dominion won't stop. If we hesitate, we die." The room fell silent at his words. As the meeting concluded, Hale returned to the war dog training facility deep within the ship. Rows of young war dogs stood in perfect formation, their glowing eyes reflecting the cold lights above. Handlers moved among them, speaking in soft, precise commands. These creatures were even larger, faster, and more intelligent than Omen or Rogue, the future of human warfare. Omen and Rogue stood nearby, watching the younger beasts with a mixture of curiosity and pride. Hale knelt beside them, his hand resting on Omen's powerful shoulders. "The Dominion thinks they've seen the worst we can unleash," he whispered. "They're wrong." Rogue growled deeply, his voice like distant thunder. Omen raised his head, letting out a howl that echoed through the vast chamber. The younger war dogs joined in, their combined voices forming a chilling chorus that reverberated through the ship's metal walls. Far away, aboard his cloaked vessel, Zeltha's claws traced a glowing image of Earth on his display. His voice was soft, almost reverent, as he whispered to himself. "They think they are hunters. But all hunters have blind spots. And I will be the shadow they never see." His mandibles curled into a cold, predatory smile. As the human fleet left the ruined world behind, Commander Hale stood at the viewing deck, watching the stars. Reyes joined him quietly. "Sir, where do we go from here?" Hale didn't look away from the stars. "We prepare. We train. And when the Dominion comes back." He glanced down at Omen and Rogue, who stood like statues beside him, their golden eyes burning with determination. "We make sure they never laugh at humanity again." The war dogs howled together, their voices carrying across the void. A warning to any who dared to challenge them. The war was far from over. It had only just begun.